All right, you guys, welcome to this call. So I have never done a call like this for the public, and I was at the coolest event for one of my coaches in Dallas last week, and my team really gets a large part of like how I created the shred plan, why it works, and the science behind all of it. And so what I wanted to do tonight is offer this to the public, and so you actually have a place where you can ask questions. And here's the thing I want you to know, you guys, there's no strings attached. Like, ask me anything. Like, it's not like, I don't want this to be a, call where you're scared to ask anything. I want it to be a place where even after the call, you can come in the private group that I've created for this event and flat out ask me anything. Like, I will always answer you. So I can go live and all of that. So I wanted tonight to be about why I created the shred plan and why there's so much science behind it and how I actually came up with this custom shred plan. You hear me talk a lot about it on social media. Obviously, my main platform that I'm on is Instagram, and my team understands why I created it, but I realized that I've kind of left this envelope where I haven't really shared. So first and foremost, before I get started, and I kind of give you some background about how I created it. There's about 5 different reasons why I created it. But I am not a doctor, and I definitely recommend if you guys have any autoimmune diseases or any of that, obviously go to a doctor first. So I'm going to give my testimony and kind of share how I came about creating this plan. So when I was in Dallas, it was my coaches and customers, and they had kind of asked or kind of shared with me, hey, Rhonda, did you know that your shred plan is basically legit, complete autoimmune disease friendly? And I'm like, yes, I know that because I created it that way. And so I walked them through why it is. So just raise a hand. I can't ever see everybody. There is also a comment area. How many of you guys know somebody or you have an autoimmune disease in some way, shape, or form? Raise your hand. I have 2. And taking you back to one of the things of why I created the shred plan, and this actually happened, oh my gosh, 15 years ago when I became an advocate for myself, because I personally had went to endocrinologists and I had Graves' disease, and they wanted to put me on medication. And so I sat down with this doctor and I walked in and she goes, oh my gosh, we've got to do surgery right away. And I'm like, no, like I just am that person. I'm not going to do that. So I went and got a second opinion. I walked into that doctor's office and he goes, you know what? If you are willing to work with me and you're willing to do some research and I can help you through this, we can absolutely, you have to get on medication, right? I had just had my daughter. It was triggered by having my daughter. And again, all thyroid diseases are different. Mine was Graves' disease triggered by a hormone imbalance. And he said, if you're willing to work with me, let's work on getting you off medication. This is my story. I know some of you guys have genetic aspects of it. So long story short, I went upon myself to do a ton of research on what foods are actually going to help to create more iodine for my actual thyroid. Within 1 year, I was off medication and I have not been on medication since. Now, I do know that Graves' disease is very different than other thyroid diseases. They're all very different. There's hypo, that kind of thing. But I know that every 10 years, it can trigger back. It goes in remission and then it can trigger back. And I'm 15 years on and I have not had any symptoms. I do go for blood work every single year. And I'm definitely super crazy about listening to my body because I don't want to feel that way again. So I'm going to answer some of you guys' questions. And if you guys have that feeling, like I was exhausted, I had anxiety, everything I ate, just nothing was working. And it was just really frustrating to walk into a doctor office and just say, you've got to be on medication. So my story really revolved, and that's kind of where it started, as I was like, I'm not going to be that person that just says, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, if that's my story and I've got to be on medication for the rest of my life, then that's fine. But I wanted to be able to know I did everything I could to be able to help that. Elizabeth says, going through premenopausal, have all symptoms. Yes, thinning hair, right? Yes. I mean, so many women experience this and it's frustrating. And I'm not saying that my shred plan will help with every single person, but I do help a lot of people with menopause, a lot of people with autoimmune diseases. I know, Brandy, you'd be able to, kind of comment on that. I have endometriosis. I have level 3 endometriosis, and it allowed me not to get pregnant. And this autoimmune disease is something that I've lived with my whole entire life. And eating better and having a different lifestyle has 100% helped it. So that's kind of where this all started, is really listening to my body and being my own advocate for my own health. Flash forward, I was just talking to Sherry, but I lived in Minnesota and I was terrified. Absolutely, without question, terrified of the negative temperatures and showing up in life. And so I made a goal to walk on stage and compete in 2 bikini competitions. And my mom, to this day, laughs at me because she's like, that is so not you. And I'm like, I know, I'm like, not me. But I wanted the challenge, and I wanted to be able to learn more about nutrition and work very close with the nutritionist for a couple years, so I would be able to really understand how the body worked. Here's what I'm here to share with you. That was an amazing thing to go through, and I learned so much. And I also learned that world is insane. For me, it is not my world, but I did learn a lot about it. And I got to experience so many things, and I got to see, the carb cycling, and I got to go through, the loading with salts. And I know this sounds crazy, you guys, but you work so closely with them on what to eat and what not to eat. But the one thing that I walked away with after both competitions, the first one I trained for 4 weeks and ate the way they told me. And 4 weeks I did a P90X3 and walked on the treadmill. And I took 5th place, not even knowing what the hell I was doing. And I loved every aspect of the learning part, but not the walking on stage part. And so, but the one thing that I will be honest with you guys, after I left Minnesota, I created the shred plan because I was disappointed that so many people were telling me what to eat, but not telling me why. I think you guys feel that way. And I just got to a point where I'm like, this is really great. Thank you for this information. But why am I going to eat these foods? What's it going to be for? And it really is just somebody, putting this in front of you or telling you what to do. And I don't really know what it's doing for my body. And so I really found myself in a place after competing where I gained 22 pounds. And I didn't gain 22 pounds by eating unhealthy. I gained 22 pounds by eating really good. Absolutely. It was kind of funny. I tell my team, I'm like, I did not gain that weight by eating like an asshole. I just was eating really, really well, but I was eating outside my goal, and I wasn't doing time nutrition, and I wasn't knowing why I was eating certain things. And I will tell you, the one thing that's been such a game changer for me and my team is just being able to understand the value and why you're eating certain things, how to go shopping, when you would eat them, why you would eat them for certain times in your life and not others. And when I turned 40, everything changed. The way I ate in my 30s was like not even possible. Any of you guys experienced that, where you're like, we've all gone through some sort of change, probably after babies or as we've gotten older. And you're like, okay, so I'm eating really healthy and I'm still not getting the results. And that's how I felt. And I felt very lonely, and I felt very lost. And I felt like a lot of people were lying to me. I felt like a lot of people said, eat this, carb cycle. And there was a carb cycling program that came out, and I was like, oh, I know how to do this. And it was like this yo-yo of just, I can't live that way. I can't live the way where I'm loading carbs one day and not the next. Does it work? Yeah, absolutely. Do I want to live that way? No. And I also don't want to live a way where I have to sit down at my daughter's birthday and tell her I can't have a piece of cake. I've been there. I've done that, done the diet pills, done the things, and not really knowing what that's going to do long-term to my body. And so when I moved to Arizona 7 years ago, I just found myself not being able to fit in any of my clothes in my closet at all, and not being able to zip my pants off. And I remember September rolled around and the skinny jeans were coming out, or maybe October here, and I couldn't even put them on. And I was like, I don't know how that happened. So flash forward, working with nutritionists, I got some certifications with Beachbody, and just really diving into being my own advocate for myself, listening to my body, listening, reading books. I've read so many books on all of this. Julia Michaels was one of the books I read. It All Starts with Food, obviously, is what I've read. A lot of you guys that know, I do follow the time nutrition and I do intermittent fasting. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about that today. Do any of you guys do that? If you guys do intermittent fasting or considering, yeah. And I'll tell you guys, it's life-changing, but intermittent fasting, you still have to know what to eat and when. And so it's not just eat healthy. There's certain foods that you're going to eat within certain times of your day. And that was something that I started journaling and keeping a log of just how my body was feeling and listening to it and feeding my mind and enjoying my food. How many of us just eat and we're not even enjoying our food? So I wanted to also share with you guys, I wasn't eating the right foods for the right workouts. And that's something I think a lot of people don't really understand. If you're trying to build muscle, you're going to eat a different way than somebody that's trying to lose weight. If you want to lean out your legs, you're going to eat a different way than somebody that's trying to, lean out their upper body, right? So what I did with a shred plan is I really started diving into what carbs to eat for what workouts, what proteins to eat for what workouts, when to have my good fat, when to have all those things, and really focusing on portion control. But we don't really use the 21-day fix containers. Like, they're helpful, but they're not what we follow 100%. So the plan is that what I teach with the shred plan that I've really learned, and I don't know if you guys follow this, if you do intermittent fasting, is all of us wake up at different times. So why would, say, Karen or Tiffany or Shannon eat breakfast at the same time? The answer is you wouldn't, right? So what I do is I have you really look at your life and I have you understand your lifestyle, as your life and your active hours are going to be different than somebody else's active hours. So I teach you what foods to eat when you're most active so that your body actually burns them the quickest, right? So your body's utilizing when to do them. And then also understanding the knowledge behind which foods are going to move quicker through your body, what your portions on those are going to look like. If you want to, I had a lady the other day, she had mentioned, she's like, yeah, I don't eat carbs anymore. And I about fell over and I was like, well, I just want to let you know, eventually you'll kill your husband over that. I was like, carbs are so great for you if you know when to eat them and which ones, right? So there's some that move really fast, some that move really slow. There's portions involved with that. There's your activity hours when you're most active. And I struggled personally, you guys. I don't know. You all know your body genetically. We all have a part of our body that is just much harder to move weight. So type in the comment area, how many of you guys, is it upper body, middle section, or lower body? So legs, stomach, or arms. So for me, I grew up showing horses. So I literally from sun up to sundown rode horses. And so my legs tend to respond so quickly to workouts that no matter what trainer helped me, and I've spent thousands of dollars on trainers, no matter what I paid, I just got bigger in my legs. Can anybody relate to that? I just got frustrated and I was like, I'm doing everything you're telling me to do and I'm just getting bigger. And I'm not a large girl, but I am a pear-shaped skinny woman. And so like my upper body, I've had to really grow it to match my lower. So let's see, Karen is middle, Shannon stomach, Stacy midsection. Yeah, we all have an area. And so what I create with the shred plan is I teach you to focus on that one area. And I ask you to be patient because obviously that's going to be a tougher area because genetically, I just have larger legs. I will always just have a harder time down there. But when I know what proteins, what carbs, and when to eat them and how much, I was able to finally lose the inches on my legs. Now, I'm doing exactly what personal trainers were not telling me to do. Nobody was telling me what to eat, when to eat it, what foods. And you'll hear a lot of times let me know if I'm going too over the top with this, but you hear a lot of times eat like a really, really big carb, for your legs, if your legs are really big or, and that really makes sense in general because our muscles and our legs are so large that we want to feed it a really good carb. But for Rhonda's body, that doesn't make sense at all. They didn't take my genetics into consideration at all. So I want you to think about, as I talk about how I created, I sat down and I thought about, I understand protein. I understand exactly how much I'm supposed to eat. Each person I work with, they know exactly what to eat. I know my goals are to be lean and still have muscle, which means I cannot skip carbs. If you're not building muscle, it's because you're not feeding your muscle the carbs. I also genetically know that I can look at bread and my legs gain weight. Like it's just, and we all have that, right? Like I know women that they're like, dude, my arms, no matter what I do, I gain like an inch. And I'm like, I get it. So I can teach you how to eat for those body parts so that you actually, now listen, my legs to lean out and lose over 3 inches on each leg took 10 months. It did because I was already fit. Again, I was not overweight and I'm fighting genetics. But think about if you're fighting genetics and you know exactly what to do, it was such a game changer. So I started documenting how this food was changing my body by just listening to my body and what my body needs. I'm not going to tell Karen and I'm not going to tell Sherry and Dita to eat like Rhonda unless I know their goal. And I think that's the one thing that you see online a lot is people don't spend the time to educate you. They go, here's the plan and it's going to help you lose weight. Well, how do you know it's going to help me lose weight? Did you ask me for any of those specific things? Do you know what area that I really struggle with? And so a lot of times when we're younger, we focus so much on the workout. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, it works, but it's 20% of your results. As you go through perimenopause or you go through the change of your season, as you get older, a lot of times that doesn't matter. There's days like with me traveling over the last 5 or 6 weeks, I missed workouts left and right, but my nutrition was on. It's all food. And I want to share something with you guys. If you don't already know this, 95% of your serotonins are in your gut. So your happiness, you not being depressed, you not walking around with anxiety, you not sitting there going, oh my gosh, I hate myself, and you're sad all the time. That's because of the crap you're sticking in your gut. Your gut creates your happy hormone. So if you're eating like dirt, you're going to feel like dirt and you're not going to be happy. So really understanding why you eat certain foods so that when you go to the grocery store, you go, oh, I know exactly why I'm eating this. It honestly becomes a game changer. You sit there and you go, all right, I'm not just eating, X, Y, and Z because this nutritionist says so, or this person says it. You're going to understand, I'm going to eat this protein, this carb, and have my good fat and then so that I'm going to be able to trim out my midsection, so that I am going to have the energy. So you start to see the vision of not just what you're eating, but down the road going, this is what's going to get my goal. And I understand why. Dita says, I'm trying to grow some curves. My body is in general, but I will carry it in my midsection. Yeah. And just like looking at your body and going, okay, so I'm going to continuously grow and make these changes, but I also want to go, hey, I understand this is a tough area and I want to learn how to grow it or shrink it. Right. So I'm constantly, I'm 46 and God gave me a butt. But I got to tell you, if you're trying to grow a butt, that's tough. And if you have a butt, that's tough because that butt can fall on your leg as you get older. And so I have to learn like what foods to help with, the consistency of all of my muscles and keeping them healthy and keeping them fit as I get older. The other thing I want to talk about was the time nutrition is honestly a game changer. And it's one of the things that I started 7 years ago and I really dived into hard 6 years ago. And any of you guys ever hear the stop eating after 7 p.m., right? And you just shouldn't eat after 7 p.m. Now listen, yes and no. So there is a hormone aspect to where, yeah, you want to definitely try not to eat after that point. But if you do, is that going to make or break your results? I'll be honest with you, no. But I also want you to listen to your body. If I tell somebody to do that and they're like, hey, it's still affecting me, then great. Then here's where we're going to adjust it. So I have traveling nurses and women I help that work 12-hour shifts till like 2:00 in the morning. I can't ask them not to eat after 7 p.m. Right? So again, we look at their lifestyle. What does your life look like? What does it allow you? How much are you going to eat? When are you going to eat your carbs? Which carbs are you going to eat? When do you eat your good fat? Which vegetables are going to help you get amazing results so you stay fuller longer, but you're not super bloated and gassy, right? So many times we try to eat healthy and then we just feel miserable and bigger. And we're going, oh my God, this is awful, right? And so I teach you which vegetables are going to help you with that. So that yes, some will keep you fuller longer, but yes, some are going to probably make you more bloated. And that's why you might lean towards these. So there's all these things with your lifestyle that you really go into. And so when I created the shred plan, I really created it with an autoimmune aspect of really focusing on which foods are going to help with, for me at the time, was thyroid disease. And a lot of women have Hashimoto's and they have, multiple different thyroid diseases. And a lot of times just not eating the right nutrition can be a large trigger for that. So with the shred plan, there's three things that are not on it. And these are three things that are horrible for autoimmune diseases. So gluten is the number one trigger for autoimmune diseases, soy and dairy. And so those three things are not on my shred plan. But the one thing that I do love is, so some women I help are celiac, so they obviously cannot have gluten. I am not celiac, but I have listened to my gut and I understand that when I eat a lot of gluten, I feel like dirt. So I still have it in my diet on occasion, but it's not a large part of my diet, right? You're still able to have treats on occasion, but it doesn't have to be something where it's every single day. And I teach you how to do that. And so it's one of those things where I started it with the autoimmune disease aspect of just not feeling good, and then going into paying all this money for nutritionists and nobody really giving me the knowledge behind the food. And really excited that I was getting great results, but having this yo-yo effect, and then them telling me I can't eat any treats or have a glass of wine for 6 weeks. I have to tell you, that's insane. That is outrageous. And if you told me I could never have cake tomorrow, I would hang up on y'all and I would run, because that's insane. Like, I sat at my daughter's birthday party and didn't have cake when I was competing. And I'm like, I will never do that again. So that was the other aspect I looked at. I was like, okay, so I understand everything they taught me and now I get it. I got to see what the body did, but I'm like, wait a minute, it's not worth it. That's not the lifestyle I want, right? So I really dived into which foods are going to help me to get the results to drop the body fat. One of the other things, I don't know if any of you guys have done it, that was a huge trigger for me and really, really actually pushed me to create the shred plan is, I don't know if any of you guys have done it, raise your hand, but I did the Ultimate Reset, which is a full body cleanse through Beachbody. And it really, again, has you listening to your body, and you're doing vegan and you're really understanding why you're eating certain foods. And it was such a game changer, again, to go, this is why this works. So when I created it, I took all aspects and really sit down with people and really talk to them about their lifestyle, talk about their workouts, talk about their activity, tell them about time nutrition, when to eat certain foods, and then meet them where they're at and say, here's what we're going to do. And I want you to do this. And if it doesn't work, I want to talk about what we're going to do next. Because again, what works for one doesn't always work for the next. So in a nutshell, that's what the shred plan is. It really goes around autoimmune disease. It really goes around time nutrition. It goes around specific foods. Then the fourth part, I have you look at your genetic body, right? Because as you're getting amazing results, then I'm like, all right, because here's where I was. I started getting amazing results, but I'm like, okay, I lost some weight, but my legs are still insane. Like, I literally can't fit in my jeans still. And I'm like, but I've, got the waist down, I got the arms, and I just could not get the legs down. So then I was like, all right, so we're going to focus more on what foods for my legs. So the genetic part, I really throw in there, and just the science behind the food and the nutrition. And then really, really diving into just understanding that it's a lifestyle. This is not a quick fix. This is not something that, happens overnight, but that you have a system that works, so that when you go to a party and you want to enjoy a glass of wine, you're not sitting there going, I can't have that. You guys been there where you're like, I'm on a diet, I can't do this. And then you go home and you go, is this really my life? And I'll be honest, if you have a large goal, sometimes you do sacrifice a little bit more. And when I first was trying to lose that weight, I definitely was a little bit more, all right, I'm going to have a couple treats a week, but I'm not going to have one at like every day or like 3 or 4 times a week. I'm going to really dial in a little bit more, be honest with where I'm at. And then now where I'm at in my life, I've created a lifestyle doing it that if I had a little treat every single day, I would be fine because I'm in maintenance mode. So it allows you to kind of have a system. And then one of the things I also created within the shred plan is, any of you guys ever go back? So let's keep it real. It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet, because you're not, by the way, you're not cutting food groups. You're doing carbs, you're doing protein, you're doing seeds, you're doing oils, you're doing everything, right? But any of you guys ever go on a vacation and then you get back and you're like, oh my, I think I gained 5 pounds on my vacation. So I have a get back on track on system that I created within the shred plan that teaches you for 2 or 3 days to get back on track. So it is a little bit more dialed in. It's for 2 or 3 days. And every single time I get back from something, I dial into it and I'm like, boom. And I don't have this 2, 3, 4 weeks of, God, I'm almost back to where I was. I almost have the energy that I did. So it allows you to have a system so that you actually can fall back on that. So Jennifer was saying, so as far as protein for reds, but I was also told by nutritionists that I need 130 grams a day, and there is like 8 reds would help. All right. So Jennifer, first of all, if that's from a doctor, listen to your doctor. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I won't say. I'm going to share my experience, Jennifer, so you can kind of hear my experience. I was told the same exact thing, to eat 7 proteins a day. And while I was trying to build muscle, now listen, I was working out 2 hours a day. You guys, I work out 40 minutes right now with Lift More. I don't have freaking time for 2 hours a day. Like, that sounds horrible right now. I used to love, and I'm not saying if you guys love to work out that much, that is like, you're amazing. In my younger years, oh my God, I loved it. I loved working out an hour or 2. Now I'm like, I got stuff to do. So I want to work out for 30 or 40 minutes. I can't eat 7 reds and actually get to my results. So a lot of that really would depend on your workout and your goals and that kind of thing. I have not ate 7 or 8 reds in 7 years ever. Now, when I worked with nutritionists, that's what they had me do when I was trying to build muscle. And then you got to cut, and then you got to do, and I don't want to do all those things. So this is more of a lifestyle versus if somebody's trying to really, really build muscle for a competition or an event or something like that. That's a whole nother level of getting in shape. But this is more, you want to drop body fat. You want to be lean, but also keep the muscle, right? And be able to continually keep that even kill lifestyle versus having the ups and downs. So Jennifer, I have done the same. And when I was competing and I was working out a lot, it did work. Absolutely. You have to fuel your body for that. But I don't know what your lifestyle is as far as like working out and stuff and what you're doing, what your goal is. And you're more than welcome to share. But you guys kind of heard what mine is. I mean, 40 minutes a day. I just want to maintain. I want to sit on the couch at night and watch Netflix with Joe. And I want to sit and just make dinner with my girls. And I don't want to be that mom like I was in Minnesota, where I worked out twice a day. And it was awesome. It was so much fun. I learned a lot, you guys. It was a season of my life. And I'm so glad I experienced it. But a lot of times I felt like I was eating like a job. So Jennifer, you probably feel like you're eating like a job, like it is your full-time job, and you don't even like enjoy the food, like, cause you're just eating all the time. 8 proteins. I mean, Joe is 6'4", 215 pounds, and he eats 7 proteins a day. So it really would just depend on what your actual goal is. It says, oh, you need 30-minute max, and I want to lose body fat. But as you get older, they say protein is so important. It is. But, and again, I don't want to like talk against like your nutritionist or your personal trainer, but when I was working with one, absolutely. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And the areas of my body that I wanted to change, they weren't changing. And so I think it's interesting. I spent the money with the nutritionist. I learned a lot. I worked with personal trainers, and I didn't get the results I wanted because I wasn't listening to my body. They don't live in my body. They don't know my body. They don't know those things. And so they give you a lot of times a guideline of here's what we recommend for you, but do they know how you feel? Do they know all of those things? And so I became an advocate for myself, going, all right, I want to lose weight. I want to lose body fat. It's harder for me. And so I really dialed into what does that take, and listen to my body. And I kept a journal of all the things of how I felt and how I was feeling and the results. And I share with my team, I don't know if any of you guys struggle with the scale, but I did for years when I was going through this. And now I freaking love the scale. I'm like, the scale is a reflection of my life. It is not a reflection of who I am. That scale tells me if my period's coming. That scale tells me if I'm eating like an asshole. That scale tells me if I'm dialing it in great. That scale is feedback. And when you learn and you look at it that way, because you know what you're eating and what you're doing is actually making your results amazing, then you look at all those things differently and you take those pictures and you take those measurements and you do all those things and you go, I'm dropping body fat. I'm down 3 inches here, or I'm down, because the scale can't measure body fat being dropped, right? As you build muscle, you gain weight, right? When I first started with Beachbody, you guys, I was 110 pounds. And all I could think of is I just wanted to build muscle. I'm 125 today. And I don't even know how I was 110. I'm like, that's crazy. But muscle weighs more. Muscle burns fat. And also now I don't spend the hours I did just trying to live my life, just hoping that I would get results. I know that it works. So no, you guys are so excited. So let me go ahead for about 5 minutes. Have you guys unmute your lines if you'd like, or you can even type in the comment area a question. I know I could go into so much depth, but I really want to explain to you the autoimmune part and why I created that part of the shred plan, as there are so many women that have that struggle. Also with the change of life, and I do help a lot of women in menopause, knowing what proteins, what carbs, and when to eat those things within your active hours and how much of it is gigantic. Also having a getting back on track system is so large. Let's see. And also being my own advocate, doing so many different things in life. I don't think that any of the things I learned something from all of them. They all work. Here's the one thing I want to tell you guys. All diets work. I don't want to follow a diet. I want to follow a lifestyle so that when life happens, I have a system that allows me to live. I don't want to be cutting things or going to the grocery store and being like, yeah, I can't have that. I want to be able to show my kids how to understand when mom buys food, what it's going to do for their body versus don't eat this, it's bad for you. I want them to understand the knowledge behind it. Like when I cook, my girls know why I'm eating certain proteins. And it's actually been so cool this summer, you guys. My youngest daughter, for the first time ever, is like, oh my God, can you make some of that chickpea salad for me? And I'm like, yeah, totally. I'll make it for you too. And she's like, oh my God, I love it. And so she understands why I'm making these foods. Not just mom said this is healthy, mom said this is bad. Don't eat that, it'll make me fat. Don't eat that, it'll make me skinny. That is the last thing I want my girls to know. Like that is insane. I don't want you guys to live that way. I want you to be able to go on dates with your husband or with somebody or a girlfriend and be able to like enjoy your life, right? Sherry says, if you work out first thing in the morning, can you drink the detox water over time? But before food. Yeah, so the detox water that we do and that you guys see me share all the time has complete science behind it. And I've given that on Instagram, so I won't go into too much depth on it, but with the lemon, with the ginger, and with the cayenne pepper, these ingredients, if they're room temperature, now some people hate room temperature, they always ask me if they can add ice water. You absolutely can. The reason why it's better to have on an empty stomach is it speeds up your metabolism. It speeds up your digestive system. So by the time you stick food in it, your body's already working. I have women on Instagram that message me and they're like, I actually just incorporated the detox water and I'm down 2 or 3 pounds. And I'm like, that's amazing because it works. And it is better to have it before food. I actually have it with my coffee in the morning. And I'll be honest, sometimes I like kind of screw up and I have it with my shake, and that's okay too. So basically getting it in first thing. I have a lot of women that love to drink it all day long. You can absolutely do that. My body cannot handle that. Anything that's that much citrus starts to upset my stomach. So I can do 1 24-ounce of it. Makes you regular as heck. And you guys struggle with that. It's amazing. Jennifer says, I can't stand the idea of counting calories. Amen. So thank you for bringing that up. And when I was competing, I absolutely hated it. When I ate my food, I didn't enjoy it because I was like, this amount of grams, and it was just like, and it was such a job that I loved because I learned so much. It was fantastic. I got to see what happened to the body and it was great, but that is not in my, women love it. And if you do, that's awesome. I personally just really struggled with just not really enjoying my food because I'm measuring every single little thing. And I hated it, but I can do the container system. Do you feel it is accurate? And do you eat about 4 reds a day? I am 165 pounds. So with the shred plan, we do not follow the container program exactly. I do believe, for me personally, I found that I need to just adjust some of them. Some are less, some are more. You do not skip any of the food groups at all in any way, shape, or form. But I do find that I do feel that with the shred plan, some of those things being adjusted is gigantic. I think it was such a game changer. And it really is why I believe it works so well, is because the container system is wonderful. And I do love it. For if you have 20 or 30 or 40 pounds to lose, does it work? Yeah. Here's the one thing I found and why I created this. When you have 10 to 15 pounds to lose, that's like that last little bit where there's got to be some changes. You guys feel that way where you're like, okay, I've lost the 20 or 30 or I'm doing really well. But that last 5, 10, 15, can it work? Yeah. If you know exactly what to put in it. Do I think that it could be slightly adjusted? Absolutely. I do. And yeah, I think 4 reds is great. Like it depends on obviously your numbers that you came back with. Thoughts on Shakeology not having enough protein, Jennifer? Jacob suggested to add a half a cup of recovery for adding protein. You know what? Honestly, I love it. I haven't taken any vitamins in years. I think it's fantastic. I think it would just depend on your goal. So like, for instance, I'll give an example to share with you guys. So Joe, bless his heart, he's like a little teenage boy. He struggles keeping weight on. And so I make the Shakeology for him every morning, and we add protein to his because he needs more, because he just doesn't keep the muscles easy. So if any of you guys struggle with keeping muscle, you absolutely could add that in, and that would be great. Because protein builds muscle, but remember, in order to build the muscle, you have to feed it with the gasoline, which is the carb. Okay. So like if you say you have this amazing, I always give this analogy, you have a Ferrari and it's like beautiful and it's red and it's like so stunning and you want to drive it down the street and you put, regular gas in it. Is it going to run down the street? Great. No. So protein is amazing to build muscle, but carbs actually give it the fuel to be able to work properly. So that's where so the carbs are just as important. Let's see, my mid-50s, post-menopausal, have a hard time eating a lot of protein and need to lose. And that's okay, Stacey. So one of the things, I will be honest with you guys, you have to meet yourself where you're at. So Stacey, I love what you shared because I don't think we're all created the same. So for instance, for any of you guys that have followed the 21-day fix, if it says you need to eat 4 reds, well, okay, but what if that makes you feel like shit? Like, honestly, like I want you to kind of go, well, what if that doesn't work for me? Right? I really feel like dirt. I followed the 21-day fix carb cycling program through 21-day fix extreme, and I was miserable. I absolutely sat on the couch. Some days I was starving, and other days I felt like I was 4 months pregnant. And I was like, this is not okay. So one of the things I teach you is really to listen to your body with the shred plan. So I want you to know, like, it doesn't have to be black or white. It does not. And so just know that I think that's the one thing that I think is really frustrating about the diet industry. It's like, eat this, it's going to help you. Well, what if I feel like dirt eating that? So you do really need to be your own advocate as well and listen as well. Kathy says, I do not need to lose weight. I just want to build more muscle at 53. Yeah, which is going to be protein and good carbs, and knowing when to eat them, right? And knowing when to eat them around your workouts and your activity and all of those things. So I wanted to bring some light to you guys. I could go on forever, but I wanted to really share why it works, and that I really do feel like there's not a voice in the industry of people saying, hey, this is what you should eat, but why don't we talk about it and meet you where you're at, really learn more about your goal, learn more about where you're genetically at, and really start logging and paying attention to those things. Because I don't think that anybody does that. I didn't get that when I worked with nutritionists. I didn't get that when I worked with personal trainers. I'd be like, okay, I want to grow my back. So like, eat this, do this. And I'm like, okay, so that didn't really happen. Or it did. And then the rest of me got big too. Right? And if you guys done that, I'm like, I grew it back, but now I'm like, yeah, but now my butt's twice the size, right? Like that was me. I was like, that was really fun, but now I got other issues. So I want to share with you that I get it. I want you to know you're not alone. And I want you to know that I'm here for you. And I want you guys to use this group. I want to keep this group open. So I will post the recording. And if you have any questions after watching this, and if you have anything you want me to share and post, do me a favor, come in the group and say, hey, can you share this? And I'll come and share it with you guys. Tomorrow on Instagram, I just made the most amazing dessert and I made a reels for you guys. You're going to have to go and get it. It's a protein and a good fat, which helps curb cravings so that you don't overeat. And it is fantastic. So I want to just be able to help you guys. Obviously, you have a safe place to ask questions because social media sometimes is like, where do you ask the question? But I also want you guys to know if you're struggling and somebody's telling you to do something and it's not working for you, listen to your body. It's okay. It is not black and white. I always say with Joe, I always say, I'm the gray area girl because I'm sorry, it's not black and white. It isn't. I'm Rhonda. You're Tiffany, you're Karen, you're Dita. We're not all created the same. And that's the blessing is you knowing that you do have a system behind that, right? So thank you so much, you guys. Have an amazing night. Thank you for being on. Like I said, I'll post the recording in the group and then any of you guys feel free to message me, but also post in the group any questions you might have. Honestly, I just want to be able to help. If you're going through the weekend, you're going to have a hard time and you want to learn something or you want to learn more about anything, just let me know. I'm going to post some recipes in there for you guys. I'll post my dessert tomorrow for you guys and have an amazing rest of the week. You guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join me. Have a great night, everybody. You're so welcome. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Rhonda. Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.